Okay, let's talk about one of the weirdest, most common human experiences out there. Why some people just get under your skin. We're going to figure out what's really going on.
You know the feeling, right? You meet someone, and on paper, they're perfectly nice, but something about them just, it sets you on edge. And you can't even explain why. It's a feeling we've all had, and we're about to unpack the psychology and, yeah, the science behind it. This quote from a Glamour UK article just nails it, doesn't it? It's not hate. You don't think they're a bad person. It's this very specific, nagging annoyance that is so hard to pin down, even to yourself. So, let's start with that feeling itself. That weird, almost instant reaction you have to someone that just feels a little bit icky.
Seriously, we've all been there. It's not like the person cut you in line or was rude. They could be totally friendly, but our internal reaction is just completely over the top. It's this weird, shared human puzzle. And it turns out there's actually a scientific name for what's happening just beneath the surface.
So to get what's going on, we've got to look at the science. What is irritability anyway? What does that word even mean?
Well, according to the International Journal of Mental Health Nursing, the key phrase here is a lowered threshold. That's it right there. It means your internal tripwire for getting annoyed is set way, way lower than usual. And it's a psychophysiological state. That just means it involves both your mind and your body. It's a real physical thing.
Now here's the super important point. Irritability is not the same thing as anger. Think of it like this. Irritability is the kindling, and anger is the full-on fire. Irritability is that state of being ready to get angry. It's a low-level, simmering feeling that, unlike a big burst of anger, doesn't really go away after you snap at someone. It just hangs around. And researchers have kind of broken this down into 4 main parts. First off, it feels unpredictable, like you don't have much control. Second, you've got that lowered threshold for anything negative. Third, it can be triggered by really simple things, like just being frustrated, hungry, or tired. And fourth, and this is a big one, your emotional reaction is often completely out of proportion to whatever just happened.
This little model basically shows you the whole chain reaction. It all starts on the left with antecedents. Those are just the causes, like your genes, or maybe you just didn't get enough sleep. Those things lead to the state of irritability, in the middle, which then causes the consequences on the right, anger, maybe lashing out, and just not functioning at your best.
Okay, so we get the science of what it means to be irritable, but being in that state doesn't explain why that specific person becomes the target. For that, we need to get into a really fascinating psychological twist. This is where it gets good.
What if that intense irritation you're feeling, what if it isn't actually coming from the outside world at all? What if it's coming from inside you?
There's a classic concept in psychology for this, and it's called projection. The basic idea is that when there are parts of ourselves we don't like or things we haven't dealt with, we subconsciously just cast them onto someone else. That annoying person basically becomes a walking, talking movie screen for our own internal drama.
And this idea of projection leads us to one of the most powerful and kind of cool ideas in psychology, what the famous psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow side.
Okay, this is it. This is the big aha moment right here. Let that sink in. The things that drive you absolutely nuts about other people are often just a reflection of the parts of yourself that you refuse to look at. That person getting under your skin, in a way, they're just holding up a mirror.
So what exactly is this shadow side? It's pretty simple, really. It's all the parts of your own personality you've tried to hide or deny or pretend aren't there. For example, that bossy person at work who drives you crazy? Maybe, just maybe, it's because you have a deep down fear of your own controlling tendencies. Or what about that needy friend who gets on your last nerve? Maybe it's because you've taught yourself to suppress your own needs and vulnerabilities. They're just acting out something you refuse to see in yourself.
All right, so now that we know the why, we get to the most important question of all. What can we actually do about it? How do we manage these really powerful reactions? Let's open up the emotional toolkit.
The whole foundation for this is something called emotional intelligence. And look, it's not about trying to crush that feeling of irritation. It's about building the skill to notice it, get curious about where it's really coming from, and then consciously decide how you want to respond instead of just, reacting.
So here's a super simple 3-step process you can use right in the moment. First, just acknowledge the feeling. Tell yourself, okay, wow, I'm feeling really irritated right now. No judgment, just notice it. Step 2, take a single deep breath. This is like a physical pattern interrupt for your body's stress response. And finally, step 3, Ask yourself the million-dollar question. What is this really about? Is this about them, or is this a reflection of something in me?
And why bother with all this? Because the payoff is huge. Practicing this kind of self-awareness isn't just some quick fix. It gives you real control over your emotional life. You start to understand your own triggers, your relationships get better. And honestly, it just leads to a much healthier emotional life in the long run.
And that really brings us to the biggest takeaway of all. The next time someone really gets under your skin, try this reframe. See them not as your enemy, but as a messenger. They might just be delivering a slightly uncomfortable, but incredibly valuable invitation to look inward and understand yourself a little bit better.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. It's really a challenge for all of us. The next time that feeling of irritation starts to bubble up, where's your focus going to go? Outward, at them, or inward, at the reflection in the mirror? The choice, as always, is yours.